Before we begin, I would like to thank all of the many sponsors and donors who made the film festival possible. We are very grateful for their support. You will find a list of all their names in our virtual program. I extend special thanks to Tiger Within film sponsors, Cynthia and Wayne Pertman. The Edmonton Jewish Film Festival wishes to respectfully acknowledge that our festival is held on Treaty 6 territory, a traditional gathering place for diverse Indigenous peoples, including the Cree, Blackfoot, Métis, Nakota, Sioux, Iroquois, Dene, Ojibwe, Saulteaux, Anishinaabe, Inuit, and many others whose histories, languages, and cultures continue to influence our vibrant community. A few other quick points before we get started. Your sound is muted. Please keep it off so you won't disturb the speakers. We are recording the session, so remember you may be on camera. Our guests and moderators will talk for about 35 minutes, and then we will address questions from the audience. You can put your questions in the chat, directing them to either of our moderators, Neil Gran or Becca Kogan-Gran, at any time during the talk, and they will address them at the end of the discussion. You can find that method by looking down at the bottom where you see participants or on the Q&A, and you can look in there and you can select who you send it to, okay? We are delighted today to welcome two special guests, Gina Wendkos and Margot Josephson. I'll begin by introducing Gina. Before becoming a Hollywood screenwriter, Gina was an award-winning playwright in New York, writing and directing more than 20 plays in the US and around the world. She came to California for the West Coast production of one of her plays and stayed on, segueing into feature films with the motion picture adaptation of her stage play, Ginger Ale Afternoon. Wenkos' next script was Jersey Girl, and then her very successful film, Coyote Ugly, in the year 2000. Her other films include the wonderful Princess Diaries and Princess Diaries 2, The Perfect Man, Do No Harm, and most recently, Tiger Within. We are thrilled to have the immensely talented, charming, and funny screenwriting star, Gina Wendkos, to speak to our Edmonton audience tonight. I also wish to welcome our other special guest, the young star, Margot Johansson. Passionate for acting and ballet, Margot has held numerous roles in local theater productions. A natural in front of an audience, she has also done modeling work for Ralph Lauren in New York. Margot has had roles on Nickelodeon's Game Shakers and Awesomeness TV's Foursome. Her film career is off to a brilliant start with her stunning performance as Casey in Tiger Within. An animal lover and world traveler, Margot's home base is LA, where she studies at Zach Barnett Studios and the Groundlings. Moderating today's discussion is Becca Kogan-Gran, a grade 12 student in Edmonton who has shown leadership as an outspoken advocate for human rights. The festival committee felt Becca would be a natural choice to represent the voice of young adults who demonstrate their knowledge and courage by recognizing, naming, and challenging anti-Semitism and other human rights violations. Becca's dad, Neil Gran, will be helping her to moderate tonight's discussion. Neil began his show business career as part of a comedy troupe called Three Dead Trolls in a Baggie. Today, he is a writer, director, and producer specializing in comedy and documentaries. His films include Queen of the Oil Patch and The Secret History of the Wild West. When he's not working in television, Neil also enjoys radio and was head writer for 6 seasons of The Irrelevant Show on CBC Radio 1. And now I will turn the floor over to Becca and Neil to kick off our discussion. Over to you, Becca.
All right, well, thank you, Sam. We thought it would be fun to host this Zoom talk, since we knew we had a young star of the movie with us, with an intergenerational team. And to be honest, Becca was the only young person I could find that would do it with me. So
next time I'm going to find a better hiding place.
But that aside, we thought both of us very much enjoyed Tiger Within. It was really great watching you, Margot, work with Ed Asner, and just so many surprises in it. We just thought it was wonderful, and we're looking forward to speaking with both of you for the next half hour. So, and I think Becca's going to start things off.
Yeah, for sure. I'd like to start off with asking Margot a question. What are some of your favorite memories being on set?
Oh my gosh, there are so many. Honestly, the things that pop out the most were just spending time with Ed, in between takes or before a scene. He would just be there and really ground me, or we would just hang out in my trailer and like eat popsicles. But just, I think most of all, just remembering how crazy it is to be part of such an amazing experience as, you know, someone who never really, this is my first big part in anything.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So your first big part, what were some of the, like, you must have just been amazed when you got there with everything going on around you. What were some of the first things that happened to you kind of getting on the set, you know, and just figuring your way around the place?
Yeah, for sure. No, I remember my first day, the thing I was most excited about was makeup and hair, because, you know, you're 14, you're excited to get into your character. And I just remember sitting there and like all the fake piercings, you know, being put on me, and I felt so cool. Yeah, that was pretty fun.
Wow. Did the fake piercings hurt?
No, no,
Right.
they didn't. They were just like little, yeah, they didn't hurt.
Okay. I wanted to ask. So Gina, I know you must have gotten this question about a billion times, but I'm curious. What inspired you to write Tiger Within?
Well, let's see. I wrote it a long time ago, like 30 years ago, in 1992, I guess, around there. And I was working in television at the time, at Columbia Studios, which back then was in Hollywood and what's called Gower Studios, and doing sitcoms. And it's a pretty stressful job. And a lot of times I would just take a walk to I'd just come from New York. Hadn't even been there a year yet. And there was a park about 2 blocks away. And I walked in there thinking this is a lovely park. And I realized pretty quickly it was a Jewish cemetery. And there was just a lot of comfort there for me. I enjoyed walking there. And I looked at all these stones and the names and the ages. And at that time, really anti-Semitism and the vulgarity of what I think is happening in America today wasn't on the radar. It just was a dramatic idea I had that what would happen if I had recently gotten married, and I married somebody that was very smart, but had never, he was from Pennsylvania. And I really didn't know that there were that many anti-Semitics there. And he went to very good schools and everything, but he'd never had a Jewish friend, or to his knowledge spoke to a Jew. And it kind of, I was like, I'm from New York. It was like, what? I couldn't understand that. I was like, it just, when you grow up in New York, it's kind of, it's a fluid place. Everybody is forced to talk to each other. But I think in some of these environments that inhabit a lot of these white supremacists, they don't come across other people. So they don't understand, and they don't have experience. And that's what I realized from his family and, their attitudes. And it sort of, it influenced me. And that's where the idea came from, walking around the park, meeting my ex's family. And I wrote it on spec. It's just a personal project for me. And 30 years later, finally got made. It was hard to get it made. It's not a commercial project, but I'm very glad it got made.
So was it an image that, because it's such a strong image to think of the young woman in the cemetery with the swastika on her back?
It wasn't an image as much as it was a concept in my brain that, of course, I knew about the Holocaust and whatnot, but I had not until that period experienced any kind of racist or religious bigotry. It just, in New York, I mean, especially until recent, the former president, it wasn't really permitted. Maybe it was there, but it wasn't out on the street. So it was just conceptual for me. I just was looking at all these stones and kind of I'm not good at math, but just sort of, wow, they were born then, and, you know, and just going, wow, I wonder if they were in the Holocaust. I wonder when they came here. I wonder what their lives were. And then thinking of what would happen if. I mean, I think all writers, they draw from I think all humans think what would happen if, you know, that's just what we all think, you know, about good things and bad things. And it's sort of a neurotic impulse in a way of like, oh my God, what if? And, but as writers, you always think in terms of dramatic possibilities. And to me, that was a very dramatic possibility. The hatred, I wanted to explore how somebody could not throttle this child. Because to me, there's nothing uglier than a young child wearing a swastika. It's the ugliest image on earth. And I just was curious, what would happen, you know? Because I know if were I to survive the Holocaust and see a child like that, I'm positive I don't have enough goodness in me. I'd have to hit them. I'd have to strangle them. And I just wondered what would happen if I wrote it and sort of let my characters find what they would do. I was surprised. You know, I never know what's going to happen in a script until it happens. And luckily, we found Margot, who was able to, in a funny way, because she had all that sophistication, she was able to, it allowed her to incorporate these deeper emotions. And then she just, because to be a good actor, you have to have an intelligence and an access to your emotions. And, you know, you could be 8 years old or 80. If you don't have that, you're not going to be able to communicate to the audience. And Margot has that, as all great actors have. And the ones that are mediocre just don't have it. So that's where it came from.
Thank you.
So on that topic, like, Margot, what did this movie actually teach you about Jewish people and Judaism in general?
I definitely learned a lot more than I thought. I thought I had known a lot because I went to a Christian middle school and we read The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom. So I had known a little bit about the subject, but I think the biggest thing I learned is how much or how little that other people know about the topic or the subject. Like I'm going to be honest, I've talked to some of my friends about the film, and they, you know, have confessed that they've never really been taught or had those hard conversations about the Holocaust, you know, what happened to, you know, the Jews. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it's amazing to me, but it's true. I mean, that's what I learned through my ex-marriage, is plenty of those people don't even think it happened. And it's remarkable. It's like trying to have a discussion with somebody that is one of those flat earth people. There's just no room for advancement in the dialogue, because it's, how do you explain that the earth is not flat? And how do you explain that, yes, the Holocaust happened, you know? It's sort of a snapshot in my mind of what's going on in the US.
I can see that being difficult, but don't you think, like, you know, and both of you can answer this, Gina and Margot, say that you meet someone who's absolutely ignorant of the Holocaust, don't you still, like, what do you do, Gina and Margot, what do you do if you meet a person who has no clue?
Well, I'll answer it first, then Margot can say it from her experience. You know, it depends on how belligerent they are, and you take it on. If you have, you know, you say, well, come on, I mean, it's been proven. Well, no, you know, it's false. And especially in this climate of false media, what people think, it just supports their ideology that Jews have manufactured it. And you talk to them if they're interested, but most of them are not interested. They're convinced they're right. And if you show people, if you have an opportunity to show them documentaries or movies or film or archives or any of that, I'm sure some of them were like, oh my God, really? But, and I'm not saying I've spoken to all of them, but the majority of the ones that I have had occasion to have dialogue with, they think it's manufactured. Just like, I don't know if you've ever met somebody that thinks that going to the moon was a hoax. You know, they believe that footage was photoshopped. And there's almost nothing, people that are not interested in dialogue, how do you penetrate that? And I don't know how. And it's just going to be more and more difficult, I believe, not just about the Holocaust, but about anything of importance. It's too easy for a group of people to deny it. So anyway, that's from an adult point of view. So Margot, please.
I think that, you know, just talk to them and be nice about it, but make sure, you know, we have Google and, you know, our phones, one quick search, you can, you know, introduce them to that, the Holocaust. And I think the movie also does a good way of showing how you can, you know, help those ignorant people like Ed did with me. Obviously, you don't have to take them in, but have that conversation with them for sure.
Yeah, so you portrayed really one of these people who were ignorant, had no clue. Like, how can you find ways to relate to her? Obviously not with anti-Semitism, but as her character and as her feelings.
I mean, just growing up, not knowing, you know, things and having things happen to you that you never thought in a million years would happen to you. But I definitely related with Casey a lot more than I ever thought I would, especially now that I'm, you know, a young adult growing up, just growing up.
Rough.
That's ours. I'm getting him out of here.
Let him stay. He might learn.
All right, I'll try.
Oh, is he adorable?
That's
Oh
him
my
there, the
gosh.
trouble.
Oh, big mouth. It's always the little ones. What is that? That's like a poodle mix. What is that kind?
Havanese.
It's a Havanese.
Havanese?
Oh, how old is he?
Wow.
He's 5,
6.
Aw.
6.
Well, I have two.
Sorry, you're in the middle of
That's okay.
answering, and then Manny interrupted the whole thing.
No,
As
you're
they-
okay.
as they will. No, keep going,
done.
Margot.
Oh, I'm done.
So, Manny, you're gonna have to stop, buddy. Can you, you spoke about ignorance, and we've been talking about it, and I think I was watching another interview of yours where you said ignorance can be cured. And how do you think, like, things like Tiger Within, and are there other projects that you're involved in that you're trying to help cure ignorance with?
Who are you asking? Margot?
Yeah.
You know what? This is good for both of you.
Okay, Gina, you can go
Okay.
first.
Well, my goal, which I always thought, I knew that this would be, as the years went on, put it that way, and my career was staying in the commercial realm of Disney and, you know, happily. I always thought at a certain time, certain age, which I am now, that my goal was to take Tiger Within to schools, show it to not elementary, but you know, junior high school. And because in my opinion, adults are 1 out of 100, maybe you could shift. maybe. But kids, what which Margot personified, kids, they model what their parents teach them. I mean, that's everywhere, everything. But I think kids, which are the next generation potentially of monstrous hate in this country, they can be changed, but they're not going to be changed by books and teachers. They're going to be changed by the media that they understand, which is dance, visual, music. And that's just, I mean, I'm not saying anything against books, God knows, but the concentration span of that generation, they need a different media to influence them. And so my goal has been, and I haven't made much progress on this, I'll admit, is to bring this movie around to schools, and of course, with the permission of the principal and whatnot, and then have a dialogue like hopefully we're going to have today with whoever came, and talk to the kids about it. And I mean, because I've learned a lot from talking to kids in LA, not about this, but I worked on a project with a bunch of gang kids, and of course I talked to them, and their perspective really changed how I saw things as an adult. And I think that the reverse is possible as well. So that to me, it has more potential than meeting some moron on the street and trying to change his mind. I'm very frightened for not just for Jews, but for anybody that's not white and Christian in this country. It's a bad time. And it's going to get worse. And if I can do anything, the only thing I know to do is to show this movie to kids in their schools and then talk. And that's all I know to do. I don't have any political aspirations or even ability. I'm not an organizer, but I've been looking for somebody to help me do that because I don't know how to do it. But that's my goal. And anyway, I'm done on that. So, Margot, if you have anything to add.
Honestly, I think, hearing you talk about going to schools, and I think that's maybe the next thing I could do to help.
Yeah.
Spread.
People need to be emotionally affected by the people that, I think if Margot spoke to people after seeing the movie, I think she could turn someone around, and which would have more impact than me speaking to young kids, because they're going to believe her more than me. But nonetheless, I think the idea that kids do not have to believe what their parents tell them is, a lot of kids never learned that. They think, yeah, well, my parents think that, so I got to think that. Well, someone has to tell them you don't have to do that. And that's what I can offer.
It's a pretty incredible answer. So, Margot, do you plan on making more movies?
I'm not really. I haven't acted in a few years. I've just been kind of focusing on myself and school and everything, but maybe in the future.
For sure.
Margot's life is wide open. She can do anything.
Oh yeah. And you're also, though, are you still then studying acting?
Not at the moment. No.
Okay.
I'm just really focusing on school.
Oh, okay. So what grade are you in?
I'm a senior.
Oh, okay.
Is that grade 12 in
Yeah,
Canada?
12th.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I get confused. Junior,
you
senior.
gotta know it if you want to watch any of
I know the grades are different everywhere.
Yeah. Gina, I wanted to ask a bit about this, and we'll also ask Margot some questions about him too. But Ed Asner is such a, monolithic presence in the world and in the movie. How did he end up getting on board the movie, and how was it seeing him, doing your words, your script?
Well, look, Ed is a master, and he wasn't. I was resistant at first because I only knew his comedy chops, and I didn't know that he had such a dramatic range because I'd grown up with Ed on Mary Tyler Moore, and then the Ed Grant Show, and all. I'd only seen him do comedy. We met. He was recommended by somebody, so the director and I met with him, and it was love at first whatever, because not only did he, I mean, he's an intellect, Ed. It was, I can't bear to say was, but and he's also very politically astute, an author that has analyzed the climate very well, and he wanted to do the movie. I mean, it's there's not many movies around that get made that are so uncommercial in a certain sense, but he recognized the power of the message, and then he met Margot and just was blown away, and we all were like, yeah, let's do this together. And we had a great time on set, because Ed was not used to the kind of low rent environment that the movie was shot in. It was shoddy, he's a star. He's used to 5-star, and this was a very low budget, but he grappled, and he was an energetic, thoughtful, generous man, and he saw something. Well, he saw what I saw in Margot and what I think everybody sees, but he also saw a way. He knew that she was young and new, but he also saw a talent there that didn't even need training. It was just there, like certain actors, you read their bios and it's like, oh, I just stumbled onto an audition. Some people just have it, and that's what he saw. So he was a wonderful man, and so complex.
And working with Ed, Margot, what did he teach you about acting? What did you learn from him working with him?
I learned to take in the moments for sure. Sometimes, I was pretty new, so I would sometimes read my sides really fast, and he just taught me to slow down and just be in the moment. And that's one of the greatest pieces of advice he's ever told me.
Sounds like life advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a very deep guy.
Very.
What did this movie teach you just about older people? Because how old were you when you shot the movie?
I was 14.
So 14, working with Ed Asner and playing this young kid, and then also being this kid talking to this older man. Like, what did it teach you in general?
To be honest, when I was younger, I was always very comfortable with adults. I almost preferred to be with adults more than kids my own age, because I just always felt the conversations were more exciting or things like that. So when I was working, with Ed, or kind of being the youngest one on set, it really didn't bother me. I would get more intimidated by like the scenes where girls my age would come in, then I would start to get nervous. But around adults, really, I felt the most comfortable.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And now you said you wrote it 30 years ago, and because I noticed Casey used a payphone. So when was the movie actually set?
Well, she used a payphone because she got her cell phone was stolen. So she didn't have an opportunity to not use a payphone because she didn't have a cell phone anymore. It's contemporary.
Okay.
It did take us a while to find a payphone in LA.
That's what I was going to say. Where did you find a payphone?
But she didn't have friends to borrow, and she didn't want to. I think you could tell she had a very funky relationship with her parents, both bio and otherwise. And so she needed to call her mom, and that was, she called collect, and that's how she did it.
So Tiger Within, I know it's a theme in the movie, but what made you choose it as the title?
Because I knew about the Chinese concept and the idea of what Tiger Within means as their belief and their more holistic approach to confronting problems less aggressively and by delving into the interior of ourselves to discover what the issue is and the conflict and the demon or the devil or however you want to call it that makes humans do hideous things. And I just thought, wow, that's a very cool thing. And then it just occurred to me that that's what I was writing, and that's what I called it.
Okay.
So Margot, actually in the movie you ask this question, so I'm wondering what your answer is. You ask if you had to die by jumping out of an airplane.
I knew that you were gonna ask that.
drowning in the
I
ocean.
knew it.
Or getting
Did
shot
that.
in the head, what would you choose and why? I've been dying to know since I watched that scene, if I'm really being honest.
Probably jumping out of an airplane. Just because, I don't know, sounds kind of fun. I mean, if that's how you had to die, if that was it, then yeah. What about you?
Honestly, I am not as, brave as you. I would just do the shot in the head, quick and easy, then a done, rather than falling and seeing what my fate is. But
yeah, that's true.
it's an everyone thing.
Yeah.
So we're starting to get a few questions in that I'll throw your way. So, you wrote it as we've mentioned a couple times in 1992. Why do you think it just got made?
Because most people it's not a studio movie, and I didn't know the alternative financing world that independent filmmakers go to. I'd always worked in studio for confines, and it's, as my then agent said to me, boy, this is a toughie. You have two roles that neither age group opens a movie, and which means there's not a star that banks put money on and then deliver movies. And but that didn't influence me in terms of writing it. I knew that. It took 30 years because a lot of the wonderful men that were attached sadly died. Martin Landau was the last one. He was with us for years trying to get this movie made, and financing was coming together, and he took ill. And Rod Steiger, many men that of that age group, because it had to be of that age group. I didn't want, there were some younger guys that wanted to age up, but to me that just was not very authentic. So that was one problem. And the other problem is it's not the kind of movie that gets easy financing. It's not a horror movie in terms of the independent world. It's not a comedy. So it just took what it took that long.
Wow. And you're mentioning such big names too and trying to get a movie made.
Yeah, but they are big names, but at that age, they don't, what as Hollywood calls it, open a movie. Right. And they weren't the starlets or the stars that they can capitalize on. And that's it's a business ultimately. And so independent financing arrived, and it's very low budget.
Well, the role actually you play, Margot, is quite intense. It's a very, opposite of what you are. So how did you prepare for the role, but also like emotionally prepare for it as well?
I feel like the thing that I loved most about, being Casey is I never really felt like I had to perform, or I never really had to do very much to prepare for the role. I mean, once I was in hair and makeup, I just felt like Casey. So sometimes I would like black out and not remember the scene I just did 5 minutes before because I was so into it. I just felt very close to her and very attached to her. Like the first time I read the script, I started crying. So, yeah.
So the one thing I was wondering about as a dad, there were some really raw scenes in the massage parlor. Did you like go over the script with your parents, or how did that get addressed in your family?
My mom just told me, what was going on, and I was like, okay, but they actually used a stunt or a double. So I never, because I was 14, because of all the laws, I was never on set when any of those scenes were filmed. So the ones of my face, that's it. The hands and everything else is someone else, like the back of someone. Yeah, that's.
Oh.
So I was never allowed to be on set for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a law in SAG, they're very protective. And
Yeah.
so we used somebody that was in their 20s, it just had her hands. And so Margot was never there. It was just clever editing, really.
Yeah, well, you had us fooled.
Yeah. So
we have another question in here. Says, Gina, you mentioned your fear for Jews, Christians, and basically many groups in the US. Can you expand on what this fear is? Kind of.
Well, I didn't say that I have a fear for Christians. I have a fear for everybody that is not white and Christian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because they are. It's influenced. Obviously, I don't want to get into a political tirade here, but its influence comes from our former president, and they want, the bottom line, in my opinion, of all of this chaos, and because I don't really think educated people believe in what do they call it? False news and all this. They just say it because what that group wants is a white America. And, they don't consider anybody that's not practicing Christian and white worthy, that group. I'm just talking about that group. So anybody that's not in that select group, to them, is an enemy, and that's the majority of America. So I'm not worried for Christians. I'm worried for absolutely everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying all Christians are like this. I'm saying this new far right entity, that doesn't like. Forget about. I mean, of course they don't like Jews, but they don't like blacks. They don't like Mexicans. They don't like anybody that's not them. And so that is why I'm afraid for anybody else.
Mm-hmm. On a different note, because I'm getting questions coming in, so we're going to soup to nuts a little bit.
Good.
Where did the idea for the illustrations for the film come from? And, why was it important to add them and not just use what the character drew in her book?
Well, this is probably more a question for the director, but
Was this a Raphael question?
Yeah, but we'll leave that aside. Very far aside. Raphael's wife, okay, is brilliant artist. I mean, she's terrific, and and Raphael asked her to make these drawings, and she agreed. And I think that it wasn't my idea, and it wasn't in the script. And I'm not exactly sure why. I think in some cases the drawings were segues to scenes where he didn't have a good transition. I don't really know. I'm not horrified by them. But I think I can't answer for why he did it. But that's what a director gets to do.
So
You know what? As a writer who's as a writer who's had plays directed and stuff, I feel you right now. I really
No,
feel
you couldn't possibly feel me because you'd have a knife in your hand. Okay, I mean, no, we have had a lot of trouble, he and I, and you know, I'll leave it at that. But I felt that the actors, Ed and Margot, were certainly strong enough to cover any transitional need.
Yeah,
And
they
they're
were
both they both have strong, I mean, Ed of course is a master at improv, but Margot, you know, there were times when certain scenes just, you know, sometimes my own dialogue was like, and Margot just naturally knows how to improv. It comes from an intelligence. You cannot improv if you don't have a mental understanding of the nature of the scene. So, you know, again, she just constantly, every day. I mean, Ed would say to me, "Oh, did you catch that? You see what she did?" You know, he was, you know, Ed's been around ingenues his whole life, you know, with acting, and most ingenues, you know, can play one level. Margot has so many levels, and we were very fortunate. So that's a long way to say I don't know what the drawings were about, but the wife is a very good artist.
So weapons aside, this could be for both of you. What is like the significance of the birthday party with the dad's family at the end?
Margot, do you know? Because I mean, I wasn't.
I think that's a Raphael question, kind of.
I'm going to tell you what I think Raphael would say,
That's great.
because I did not know it was going to be there, was that in some way, of which I'm not even sure I would want, that Margot reunites with that family in the valley, her bio dad and the creepy mom and those kids, although I loved the little kids, loved those kids. I mean, those kids were amazing. They were sisters.
They were sweet. They were really cute.
My God, were they wonderful. And Jade is a dear. What a wonderful, you know, the beautiful older girl. She's terrific. I don't know why he wanted to show in some way that Margot was going to reunite with that family and she'd happily have a birthday cake. I have no idea, because I didn't know it was going to be there until I saw the final movie. I wasn't involved with the edits or anything like that.
So then, on the final cut, how long after the film did Ed pass on? And did he get to see the final cut?
I don't think he saw a final cut. There was I'd say about 2.5 years, Margot, you think? Something like that?
Yeah, I would say it was around 2.5.
Up until I didn't see the final cut until until a distributor, you know, until the title, until Raphael sold the movie to Neil, and I was like, because I hadn't liked the movie for many years, what I had seen, and so I was like, you're kidding me, somebody wanted this movie, because it was just, I did not like, I loved the performances, but there was a lot of just bad stuff going on and with the movie. And he wouldn't let me see it. And I don't know that Ed saw it. And then finally Ed did see it. And I don't know, in a middle stage, not the final. And when I finally did see the final version with the drawings and all that, I was very amazed that over the 3 years it had gotten to that. And the ending was, we bickered because that was not the ending I wanted. And I thought that the movie, my original ending was, and that's, I think, also why he did the drawings. The original ending was Casey going to the zoo and doing the improbable thing of putting her hand through the cage and a tiger licking her hand. But of course, would never put Margot in danger. It was,
That would be a stunt performer.
Yes, yes. Or it could have been CGI, or there's other ways to have done it, but for whatever reason, he didn't want to do that. And I think that's where the drawing thing was first born, because he needed the drawings to make that effective in his mind. I'm not sure, because again, I wasn't involved in that. That's that is the thing about the writer-director relationship, is at a certain point you have to let it go, and that's very hard.
Yeah. And that is, that must be so hard for you, sometimes seeing what you've created, because the screenwriter, that's the genesis of it, and then seeing where it goes.
And it works both ways. Gary Marshall made my script better. So sometimes the director improves and sometimes they weaken. It all depends.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But,
And Margot,
I'm sorry, Margot?
Margot, how much improvising did you end up doing? Where, did you and Ed sometimes just kind of play with stuff?
We would. I remember a few scenes we did do. I don't think anything ended up in the final cut though, just because Gina's words are magic. So yeah, but we definitely would play around sometimes with the scenes.
Okay. So then what was the budget for the film, and how many shoot days were there?
How many days was that, Margot?
It was like 30. I think it was only 30.
30 days? Really? I thought it was less than that.
Oh,
30?
it was?
I think so.
It was less than that? Oh.
I think, but I don't remember.
I don't know.
The budget was, I'm not exactly sure, but somewhere between 250 and 300,000, I think. Very low.
Wow. Yeah.
The director is a very, very good producer in that he knows how to squeeze a lemon on stuff. He's just, people that I know that have seen the movie, that are in the business or that are directors, were amazed that on that budget he could get so many locations, because generally, as you see low budget movies, most of them are taking place in the woods or something. It's like, another wood movie, because it's so expensive to have these locations. But he shot a lot in a day.
We would we would go everywhere.
Yeah, and without permits, so it was what he called guerrilla filmmaking. But he was very creative in how he could fit all these locations into one day.
Yeah, it looked like a lot more than that, for sure. It really did.
No, and he's very, I think he's very gifted at that, at knowing how to move elements around. And he has a crew that he's worked with for a long time. So they, his cinematographer and his sound guy and all those people. So they all have a shorthand, which of course helps.
And where was it shot?
In well, all in Los Angeles, but in a house in, I think it was, where was that? The Valley. Two houses were in the Valley, I think, and then a school that was in Hollywood, and just all right around where we live.
Wow. I know, I'm just impressed that he got exteriors shot in LA without permits.
He's just, I don't know whether Neil had to then cover that. I don't really know anything about that. All I know is he just would shoot and deal with the problems later.
I've been kicked out of places in LA going to hide in the bush doing a quick interview with like a
Yeah.
doc crew. So I'm just amazed.
No, I was not there on the beach scene, but they are out at wherever that was, Venice or something.
Yeah,
and-
that
Yeah,
was.
yeah, thank God I wasn't there. But tell
What
him
Yeah,
happened,
no,
Margot?
we booked it. Yeah.
So what
it was
happened
bad.
there? Tell us about Venice Beach.
We had literally just, I think we were in the last 5 minutes of filming our shot where me and Diego, we were like leaning on the tree and talking. And all of a sudden we see these like flashing lights like starting to drive towards us. We're like, oh my God, it's the coast or something, whatever. And we just start getting all our stuff, all the camera crew, everyone, the sound guys, we all just started running. And then we got to the van or trailer, just hid all our stuff in there and then left. Yeah.
Because you could never get a
was-
permit for that. I really don't know how he's covered the legality of it since. You're allowed to shoot on the
I don't
beach.
think I've ever seen Rafael so scared. He was
Yeah,
petrified.
that he was, I heard he was really freaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he managed. He knows how to do that.
Wow. So I do have, we have final question like we'd like to ask of each of you. One thing that seemed to come through the movie so much is that idea of forgiveness. How is forgiveness important to you, Gina?
I know it's a very, this is a complicated answer, and question. I think forgiveness is a wonderful concept if the evil one atones, if they apologize, if they receive whatever is their due. But I know it's everybody says, oh, people should just forgive. Well, that's just not what I think. I don't know. I know it's not popular to think that, but I would forgive anybody. If I met a Nazi tomorrow and they apologized, I'd forgive them. But if they didn't apologize and they thought they had rights to do what they did, I know in contemporary thinking, you should forgive the actor of evil deeds because it's good for yourself. Well, I just don't feel that. I'm all for forgiveness if it's a volley between two people, the victim and the doer. But I don't know how forgiving somebody makes me feel better if they don't own up to what they did. And Raphael felt that the movie was all about forgiveness. That's not what I felt. I felt the movie was about one man finding a way to find one person on the planet not to hate. And if he could find a way, which he promised his wife, because he didn't hate her, that if he could find a way not to hate everybody, and the hardest person in the world not to hate would be this kid in her leather jacket sleeping in the park. And that's what it was about for me. Raphael has a more modern version on the concept of forgiveness. And I know I'm out of vogue on that, but that's what I think.
Well, Margot, what did you learn about forgiveness making this movie? Whether it's similar to Gina's or similar to Raphael's, what did you learn even from the script, from shooting?
The main thing that I learned, I think this entire movie was forgiveness was talked about a lot. I think, mostly by Raphael. I was 14, so he was always letting me know, about the themes of the movie: compassion, forgiveness, things like that. But really, I mean, Gina, I agree to disagree, but for me, I think forgiveness is when you're so upset at someone that it starts like mentally and get going on you. The best thing to do is just say, okay, you're gonna do what you're gonna do. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, but I'm just gonna forgive you, but not for you, for myself. I'm not gonna forget what you did, but at least so I can relieve myself of that, mental strain.
I think that's wonderful if people can do that. I'm not built that way. I'm just not. I mean, I can detach from the doer and not think about them or obsess on them or not let them rule my life. But, if maybe it's a next step in evolution. I don't know. It's just not me.
Well,
No, I get that. It's
Mhm.
And I
different
love
for
you for
everyone.
being able to say that. I mean, I do. I love this girl, Margot. If her generation could be like her, man, because we're all relying on that generation to fix it, And I just think in lieu of just blanket forgiveness, I'd like to exchange it with understanding. And I think when you do understand somebody, like today I was in a shop. I'm in Vegas right now. And I was in a shop in my hotel, and this adorable guy, like 19, was trying to be a salesperson. He was sort of learning, and he had a Russian accent. And I said, "Oh, you're Russian?" And he goes, "But I don't like Russia the way it is." And he goes into this whole thing, he said, "Please, I'm not like." I go, "Hey, I love Russian people. It's one dude, And so, yeah, I don't have forgiveness right now for what Putin's doing. I have tremendous compassion for everybody else.
well, I want to thank you both for your candor and for sharing so much of what the movie was about and what it was for both of you, and for having this talk with us and sharing your movie with the Edmonton Jewish Film Festival. Thank you so much.
Well, I
Of
love Canada,
course.
and thank you. Thank you very much. And
Thank you
Margot,
guys for having us. It was really a pleasure meeting you guys.